All right, we are live. Welcome in, everybody, to The Slate. We are a DraftKings show. We take you up until 6 o'clock on this Thursday, May 25th. Brendan Glasheen, joined by Gary and Thorne. We're going to talk some basketball and baseball, and Jeff Ulrich will join us later in the program. I'm telling you exactly what Jeff said, to find a way to lose money on the Dallas Stars again in these playoffs. That's what Jeff said. We'll see what his take is when he joins us in the next 20 minutes or so. Gary and hi. So
hello.
Let's set this up. So we'll start with the NBA Eastern Conference Finals, Celtics Heat Game 5. Boston forces a Game 5. It's tonight. So look, I think this has been the chatter now for the last 45 hours leading up to this game. The series price is alarming because bookmakers, DraftKings Sportsbook, Celtics are in the plus 230, 240 range to win the series, despite being down 3-1. We all know the historical context when a team trails 3-0 in a series, but if any team could do it, it's probably this one because they're the higher seed being down in the series. They have home. If they do make a run, they'd have 2 of their next 3 at home, and one of those games being tonight. Celtics -8. When they win at home ever, which has been a long time, it feels like in these playoffs, Game 7 against Philadelphia, the last time they won at home, they win in blowout fashion. So the line makes sense. They're 8-point favorites. The total's 215. If you like Miami, you probably just take Miami on the money line, or you could take the 3 possessions, take the 8 points. I get that. But what are your thoughts heading into tonight's Game 5?
I mean, I say this so sparingly, and I would never say it in his presence, but I think Adam Kaufman stumbled upon a somewhat poignant thing in his last, 48 or 49 tweets. I really can't keep count sometimes, but, he was going on and on about the 150-0 record that, and that's a number we've heard a ton. 150 series in NBA history, a team has been up 3-0, 0 times has a team come back from that deficit. Mm-hmm. And how that's a bit of an absurd number because obviously this series has very particular context. And you already laid out a lot of it, which is just...
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
No, it's fine. It's true. And it's honestly why I'm having such a hard time like breaking down this series game to game, because my thoughts never really have changed here. The Celtics are a better team. I don't know how many ways I can keep searching for an answer as to why they're losing, but I think it's really interesting. And you talked about the series price. I mean, I guess there's a case.
By the way, it's Boston plus 210. That number has come down. So I think people are now. I don't think it's a great number, right? We would agree the price is not great considering the spot they're in, but that's come down since Game 5 or Game 4.
Terrible number though when you think about it. So they're 8-point favorites tonight. Mm-hmm. If they win this game, I would assume they're going to be favored once again on the road against the Heat.
Small fave, I would guess.
We'll see. I mean, they'll have won 2 straight games at that point. We'll see if they do win tonight, we'll see how one-sided a victory it could be. The health of Gabe Vincent, I know it's a crazy thing to say. It's not something I thought I would say at this point of the season, but the health of Gabe Vincent looms a little bit large. If he's ruled out prior to that game, that obviously affects the spread a little bit. But we saw this.
You're saying if Vincent's out for game 6.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But we saw this heading into Game 3. I mean, the Celtics had lost back-to-back games at home to open this series, and they opened as 5.5-point favorites in Miami for Game 3. I believe it got down to 4 by the time tip happened, but it was only after a 26-point loss in Game 3 did Miami finally become a favorite in this series, and even that was only by 1.5. So clearly, I mean, look, we've all dunked on the ESPN analytics model. I know that's been a really fun point of contention this entire series, but even heading into Game 4, what was it? The Celtics were still 72% likely to win the series by ESPN's analytics. And the reason for that is quite simple. Statistically, they are a far superior team to the Heat. So, I mean, you can't go back in time and bet this with me, although we did talk about it a little bit on Tuesday. I believe at the time the Celtics were 16-1 to win the NBA Finals. I bet it, I think, at 14-1 just before tip-off of Game 4. I believe it is now just plus 450 for the Celtics to win the finals, which is not a number I think I want to invest in, because I do think the Nuggets are a very formidable foe if they do reach the finals. But I mean, we're not talking about something that's that crazy. Like I know the Red Sox comparison is right there for everybody, but this is less about the Celtics coming back from a 3-0 deficit than it is the Celtics shouldn't have dug themselves into a 3-0 hole to begin with. You know what I mean?
I hear you. And I would imagine if there is a game 6 in Miami, I would invite Derek Jeter back, maybe not A-Rod, just based on optics.
Tempting fate, I would say.
If it is a game 6, if we're going to make that 04 Sox comparison, A-Rod might knock the ball out of someone's hands, trying to inbound the basketball from underneath, Bronson Arroyo. Remember that?
True. Yeah. It's true. But again, I think when we're talking series line, so plus 210,
yeah.
I mean, the Celtics, in my opinion, the Celtics will be favored in every remaining game in this series. So when you look at it that way, is it really that crazy to bet them at plus 210? Like, I get what you're saying. Historically speaking, you'd want a bigger number, but if you're still looking to back the Celtics in this series, that's probably my favorite way to do it, because I don't think you're getting plus money on the money line for any individual game remaining
the rest of the way. Right. Okay. That makes sense. Especially if you're rolling over game to game, that the math checks out, right? So if the series price, so it's 210 now, if tonight they're minus 300 to win game 5, projected
like minus 135 for game 6, something
right,
like that.
Right in that range, 125, 135. And then if they force a game 7.
What do you think? Like minus 400, minus 450 if it's a game 7 in Boston and they've won 3 straight games?
Yeah, something like that. Maybe a little bit smaller in price, but something in that range, right? So with all that being said, are you doing anything with this game? You did mention the game, Gabe Vincent. We know Malcolm Brogdon is hurt. He's playing with a partial tear in his tendon. Brogdon was active this morning in shoot around, so I think he's playing.
Yeah, he's gonna play. I think they were just saying like maybe he hasn't been shooting the best for these reasons.
Yeah. Love when that comes out. Any sport.
It's always fun.
But usually that stuff comes out when the series ends.
Yes.
Right.
Well, maybe they had it queued up thinking the sweep was coming, and then it didn't happen. They're like, oh, we got to get this off because the series might go another week. Honestly, I can't find an angle I like for this game. Like I said, I would be looking at futures props for the Celtics. It's probably the way I attack this.
Okay.
But props, if you want to take a look at some Heat props, like Lowry props are probably interesting. He has not shot well since game 1 in this series. So
points prop 11.5, juiced at minus 130.
Yeah, like I don't think I want to attack Lowry with points at this point, but assists, what is it, 4.5, 5.5?
4.5 at minus 165.
And maybe you can find an alt line here for 5.5 or 5 over 5 and something a little better, but I could see that happening. Even the games he's struggled, +7 might be a little extreme, but
yeah, that's all they're giving you for Lowry right now.
Because it'll be interesting to see if he even starts. I think there's a version of this where the Celtics, like, they might even start like Highsmith, like, the Heat. They kind of do weird things from time to time, and they like Lowry coming off the bench. But I could see him playing big minutes. But again, points is probably not how I want to attack that. Even Butler in terms of creation is not. I think he's a better. His rebounding prop's been more appealing to me this entire series, but. You got to eat some juice, obviously, but Lowry going over 4.5 assists, I would feel pretty good about.
Okay. And then Jimmy Butler, they still got the long hair Jimmy Butler on DraftKings. I think that's cool. I love that do. Is that this year when Butler started the season with the long hair?
So he didn't even start the season. It was literally just picture day. He put in dreads.
Right. That's right.
And because he knows this stuff. I mean, it was hilarious.
Points, rebounds, assists, Jimmy Butler, 41.5. Did you just say rebounds for Butler possibly?
I mean, he's been rebounding well in this series. I think 7.5 is not terrible. Again, you get to a point with some of these players, and we saw this to some extent with Tatum as well in game 4. And I know the Heat aren't the ones with their back against the wall, though it kind of feels that way a little bit. Butler's going to play major minutes in this game, and he'll just accumulate counting stats through osmosis. He's a pretty good rebounder. It's not like the Heat are that big a team either. I mean, he's sort of the de facto power forward in some of these lineups. There was a specialty prop in game 4 that was Butler and Tatum combined rebounds 20, plus 20, and it was at plus 200. I really liked that prop. I think it hit on the nose. They didn't clear it by a wide margin, but yeah, I don't hate Butler over 7.5, especially at plus money.
Okay, plus 120 at DraftKings. Any other thoughts before we go? Well, not go. I mean, move on to baseball. That's what I meant to say. Move on to the next sport.
No, again, I like those Celtics futures. I think that's probably the way to go.
If Miami wins tonight, just before we move on, any guess if that price for Denver changes for the NBA Finals at minus 205?
I would expect it up around minus 250. I think the specter of the Celtics is definitely affecting that line because, again, the Celtics in the last 48 hours have gone from 16-1 to plus 450. So clearly there is still a lot of respect for the Celtics and what they could be by these odds makers.
Okay, very good. Celtics Heat tonight, 8:30 on TNT. We'll see how it goes. I'm small B, starting to believe, but let's see. Okay, baseball Thursday, often a travel day. There are decent amount of night games. I feel like last Thursday there was like 5 games, and now we've got more than that to work with.
I think it was 2. I think there was 2 games last week.
Yeah,
pretty light.
So we've got 7 o'clocks. 1, 2, 3. We have 5, 7 o'clock, 6:40. Lucas Giolito for the White Sox is on the mound as a favorite. He's been pitching better. Lucas Giolito. I can't get Lucas Giolito was in AAA Syracuse when I was in college, so I can't get it out of my head how bad he has been since he was bad last year. And then when he faced Rich Hill, like in April, and there was 14 runs scored against Rich Hill, I just can't get that out of my head, but I guess he's been pitching better. And
he's been much better. He's actually, it's really in general been a lot better for the White Sox pitching staff the last couple weeks, but at one point he was the lone bright spot. He was definitely having a much better season. In terms of names that I'm having a tough time wrapping my head around, we found out about an hour ago that Julio Teheran is going to start for the Brewers tonight.
Okay.
Signed today by the Brewers at the Padres AAA.
Where was his last team? Or what was his
last start was 2021. Like I said, he was in the Padres system for a little bit. I believe because everyone today will be like, well, 2-time All-Star Julio Teheran will be taking the mound tonight.
I
think it was like 2015.
I know. I put you on the spot. Right there.
It's been a while.
Julio Teheran, 2016 All-Star with Atlanta. Last pitch for the Tigers in 2021. He made 1 start. Year before that, 2020, shortened season, 10 appearances, 9 starts for the Angels. He went 0-4. His last full season was in 19 with the Braves.
Yeah. So this wasn't a spot that I had initially circled. I mean, mostly because we just didn't have lines because no one knew who was starting for the Brewers. But this is an odd game. I will lead with that. So maybe you don't want to just take the Giants at minus 130 on the money line because there is just a lot of weirdness kind of surrounding this spot. Scott Alexander is opening this game for the Giants, partly because he's left-handed and the Brewers cannot hit left-handed pitching. But there's some injury concern with Logan Webb, but Logan Webb is not someone you would ever consider would need an opener. So again, I'm not 100% sure, I'm clear on what exactly is happening with the Giants pitching situation tonight. But if we are to believe that Logan Webb is pitching a bulk of these innings up against Julio Teheran for the Brewers, I think the Giants is pretty light favorites on the road. That's a spot that I like. Even if you just want to maybe use it in a parlay or something like that. I know minus 130 is not the most appealing line in the world. Other than that, I do like some longer props on this slate. Logan Gilbert to record a win, I think is really appealing. The Mariners are minus 250 on the money line, so it's kind of hard to bet them that way. But Gilbert to get a win, I will say, for as good as he has pitched this season, he's only got 2 wins in his 9 starts. So this isn't automatic by any means, but much more appealing at plus 130.
Sure.
If you consider, let's say that the Mariners need to have a lead by the time the top of the 6th rolls around, because Gilbert will still be pitching in this game. The Athletics' first 5 record is 9-34-8. They get behind early and often. They have the worst WOBA in baseball across the last 2 weeks. I just don't see them scoring many runs tonight. I think Seattle gets out to an early lead. Logan Gilbert's a machine at this point. He always pitches 6 innings. He'll qualify for this number. And then the Mariners have the best bullpen FIP in baseball. So it's not like you've got a shaky bullpen closing this out for Logan Gilbert either. So I like that a lot. And then,
well, it also, why lay the half run, like first 5 run line at -145? Because in that, like, my point being is, off of what you said, you get you're just getting a better number with Gilbert starting, and in theory pitches well. You get 5 innings, you record a win, right? So you just get a better number as opposed to having to lay a half run. If the
there's some risk built into the back end, obviously, but I think it's mitigated by how good Seattle's bullpen is and how big this lead could be by the time we get to the 5th or 6th inning. And then if you're looking for a home run prop or maybe something a little bit more, longer odds, let's make some money.
Folks, but just really quick, the Oakland Athletics as road underdogs, they're terrible everywhere, but they are 5-20 this year as road dogs, which that's like most of their games.
Tough. Yeah.
Anywho, yeah, they're historically bad.
Was just gonna say, I really like picking on Clark Schmidt tonight, finding ways to do that. Schmidt has been very susceptible to the long ball, particularly at Yankee Stadium.
Okay, he pitches for the Orioles.
Pitches for the Yankees. Schmidt's giving up 1.9 home runs per 9 when he's pitched at Yankee Stadium this year. Regardless of where he's pitched, he's giving up 2.3 home runs per 9 to opposing left-handed hitters. I really like Cedric Mullins to hit a home run. He is not in the starting lineup for the Orioles tonight. However, Adley Rutschman is plus 750 to hit a home run. Rutschman's a switch hitter, but he is much better, particularly in the power department, as a left-handed batter than as a right-handed batter. 18 of his 20 career home runs have been as a left-handed batter. You could also take a chance with Anthony Santander. His total bases prop is also at plus money. That might be easier than plus 350. I generally like at least 4-1 odds if I'm taking a home run prop, but again, the left-handed bats against Clark Schmidt. I think that's the way to go tonight if you're in the prop market.
Okay, very good. And Rutschman batting second tonight. Confirmed lineup for the Orioles. Rutschman batting second. Santander batting third. All right, and you can check out, Gary, and I just pulled up your article over at dknation.draftkings.com. You've got those home run picks there, as well as Logan Gilbert tonight. And that, so is Tehran making rehab starts? Do we know that?
Yeah, he was pitching in he was just pitching in AAA. He wasn't hurt.
Okay. Well, you're right, not rehab. So he was just out of the league, right? Okay.
Yeah, he just had a 6 ERA pitching in the Pacific Coast League. So take that as you will.
All right, pal. I think you're good, right? We can send you off on your way.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Talk some hockey.
Thanks, Garion. Very good. So Garion Thorne stopping by for basketball and baseball analysis, Celtics futures, and some baseball picks. It now allows us to welcome in the Dallas Stars savant in Jeff Ulrich. Yes. Jeff, are we Vegas, Dallas, another 3-0 series in the world of sports? I
really want to know, first of all, is Garion, are we getting on the Celtics here? Is that the call?
Yeah, I think plus 210 to win the series still has some value. I was telling Flash, I bet them at 14-1 to win the finals before Game 4 tipped. So
I know I kind of like it, to be honest. I mean,
glad you're being honest.
Everyone was pretty adamant that the Heat were not good enough to hold up in this series. I mean, if they get a little momentum the other way, I mean, I could see it. But yeah, I was just wondering. Okay.
Golden Knights Stars series remains in Dallas. 3-0 series lead for Vegas. To pick them, Jeff. Both teams -110 on the money line. Are you back in Dallas? Are they getting a game, or just what Florida did last night with 4 seconds remaining? Another this Florida Panthers. My goodness, they've won 11 of their last 12 playoff games. Is this over tonight, or are you back in Dallas?
Dallas has been the better team for more of this series. They really have. They carried the play. They've outshot them. It's something like 98-70. Even in the last game, I mean, they got behind early. They made some dumb mistakes, but they carried a lot of the play. So, I kind of am I do kind of like the Stars. They have a really, really high-end first line. And I think whenever a team like that gets that embarrassed, you generally will see, the veteran players, come back with a pretty big emphasis in the next game. I don't have any inclination to say that like this will suddenly be some kind of like, fairy tale comeback. But I think for one game, you're going to see some pushback here from the Stars. I would be pretty shocked if you didn't. I actually don't mind playing them on the puck line. That's kind of what I wrote up, getting plus 220. I just feel like if Dallas wins this game, it's not going to be like, oh, close. It's going to be like 5-1. And Vegas just is like, okay, fine, you got your game. We'll go back to Vegas and we'll finish it off there. I think that's a pretty reasonable take on this game too. And I think that's also, again, like we've seen Dallas do it before. They did it against Seattle. They got blown out and then they came back and won 6-3. They're actually 3-0 straight up on the money line. If you just want to play the money line for a little safety, they're 3-0 straight up after being beaten by 3 or more goals in the playoffs the next game. So again, I think Dallas comes out and just saves some face here. It would make a lot of sense. Vegas, 60 like Florida, has just been so opportunistic that I won't be shocked if all what I said doesn't come true. But I do think that's the way to play this game. And like I said, the puck line, to me, I just think that if Dallas gets it done, it's probably going to cover. So
60-minute line is plus 135 for Dallas. Vegas plus 1.
You can look at that too. Yeah, I don't hate that. Yeah.
Just to, right, because overtime, neither bet hits the puck line or the money line, right? So, or pardon me, the 60-minute line.
Yeah.
Feeling on the total, we had 3 goals in the first period last night.
Yeah.
Same total, 5.5 goals for tonight's Dallas elimination game. I
don't have a big, strong feeling on the total. I mean, if Dallas wins, certainly Jake Ottinger can bounce back and Dallas could just dominate. But, if Vegas gets out again, like you could see a lower scoring game. Vegas just tightens down and just tries to just kind of, run out the clock kind of scenario. So I just like playing straight up. I mean, I got some props I like as well. So I honestly don't have a strong feeling there. If anything, I'd probably play the under. I think that you'll just see Dallas tighten up a little bit. And like I said, and if Aiden Hill plays well, if Dallas tightens up, then, and they can't get it past Aiden Hill, I mean, that could just push it to the under too. So a lot of scenarios, I think, where the under hits. It's definitely where I would lean, but it's not necessarily my favorite play.
Mentioned player props. I would imagine possible goal scorers for the Stars if you like Dallas on the puck line.
I mean, again, and these work well with like a Dallas puck line, same game parlay. But Jamie Benn out, Dadonov, I'm pretty sure is doubtful tonight. So 2 forwards down, but Tyler Seguin is plus 250 to score an anytime goal. He hasn't scored in 8 games. And, if you just look at his underlying stats, they're pretty solid. I mean, he's been getting chances. He has had multiple shots on net in 5 straight games. Plus 250 to me is a really good number. If you're interested in the goal scoring department, I would probably rather play him over 2.5 shots on net. He played 20 minutes in that game 3 with all those people injured. I think he'll see a ton of ice. I think that's a fair number at minus 130. Again, he's had multiple shots in 5 games. He's gone over this prop in 10 of 16 playoff games. Yeah, so I think Seguin will be out there a lot. Probably, without Ben, trying to be a little bit more pushing the action with the shots as well. I think that makes sense. On the other side, Jonathan Marchessault, I actually don't mind taking an under here. Was kind of looking, the other theme in this game, if Dallas tightens up a bit and they just play a little bit better, they've only allowed 20 shots on net over the last 2 games. So Jonathan Marchessault under 3.5 shots, I actually kind of like that. It's minus 150, but Marchessault hasn't gone over this in any of the games in the series. Certainly he's been opportunistic with his chances, but he hasn't been what you call a high volume shot guy, really. I mean, 3 shots is still pretty high volume, but again, we're getting a 3.5 total. So, lots of different scenarios where this could work out too, but kind of like the under there. It's a short number, but just how the series has been trending and just the scenario we have, I kind of like it.
Okay, it's an 8:00 start tonight. Just pulling up Marchessault's game logs. Yeah, 3 shots each of the last 2. As you said, has not eclipsed this number in any game in this series, but his shot volume was very high in the Edmonton series in the West semifinal against the Edmonton Oilers. quickly before, and I get a quick minute on the Charles Schwab challenge and just see where we're at there. But before we do that, any guess? So Florida awaits the winner of this game. When you look at that potential Stanley Cup final, would you take Florida now, or is it better to wait if Vegas wins tonight, closes it out? Like, I guess what I'm asking is, who's the favorite in the Stanley Cup final?
I mean, judging by the odds, Vegas will be the favorite. They're at minus 115.
Yep.
I don't know if that line will get any shorter, to be honest.
Okay.
Maybe you get a little bit bigger number, but yeah, it's like, to your point, I guess it can't really hurt to wait. I mean, unless Vegas somehow like blows the next 3 games and then ends up winning in 7, that's like the only scenario I think where the Panthers number gets a little bit bigger. But I mean, I would jump on the Panthers. I think I would just do it now. I think as we get closer to the start of the series, people may start to realize, like, the Panthers are good. I mean, they were the best team in the league last year. And now they have Matthew Tkachuk playing again, and they have some goaltending again. Like, this team just needed a couple different things to click. Vegas is certainly good. I'm not trying to discount them at all. But yeah, I mean, I would probably just take the underdog here. Florida has just been so opportunistic. They're just getting the play, the kind of play that you need in these playoffs. I still question too about, I don't want to say how good Vegas is, but I mean, like, they're doing this with Aiden Hill and what I would call like not a ton of depth at center, outside Eichel. I mean, I just feel like in a series against the Panthers, that's going to flash through eventually. So I like Florida. Again, they've been underrated, like, from the get-go. Obviously they were the underdogs against Boston. We understand that, but like, they didn't get any credit for it against Toronto. They got a little bit more credit against Carolina, but still, even as that series went to like 2-0, like, it wasn't until game 4 they were the favorites. So I don't even know if they were big favorites. It may have been like a pick 'em. So I like Florida here.
Absolute tear. They're 11-1 in their last 12 playoff games. Their lone loss was 2-1 game to Toronto.
And again, I come back, like, we've seen this from the Panthers before, because we saw it all last season. And the Panthers at points, they had a lot of trouble putting games together. But at points during the regular season, they had some really, like, signature good moments where it was like, okay, there's the Florida Panthers we know. Mm-hmm. But then it was like, okay, you expect it from them again, and then it just like disappeared. And you're like, what the heck is happening with this team? They're a really frustrating team during the regular season, because every time you tried to play for that continuation, it never happened. But now we're seeing it all at once. So I would take Florida.
Okay, very good. And by the way, I wanted to throw this in there too, to Jeff's point about Dallas. If you play them on the puck line tonight, if Dallas is indeed going to win a game in this series, 8 playoff wins, 6 of the 8 they've won by at least 2 goals. So Jeff's point, if Dallas is winning, it's typically by a landslide. And I put landslide like in air quotes, because like to call a Stanley Cup, any kind of Stanley Cup playoff game a landslide is of course not the case. But so just keep that in mind. Quickly, before we go, any updated feeling on the Charles Schwab challenge? The leaderboard, not a lot of name recognition, at least for me. I know you know this stuff left and right, but any developing thoughts almost one day in?
There's a lot of PGA Championship hangover happening today. A lot. Finau, Spieth, Morikawa, even just like other dudes that, like Hovland is now back to +1. This is a tough little quirky track too, so it's easy to get frustrated on. I'm not overly shocked. At the same time, like, we are seeing some of these players just absolutely they just look a little tired, I mean, out there. So, and what we're seeing too is like some of these names, like obviously Harry Hall is a little bit out of left field. He's a good player. He's a really strong putter, but some of the other names that are doing well, Andrew Putnam, Byung-Hun Nan, Sam Burns, Griot, Harris English, these guys all missed the cut last week. They didn't have to play the weekend. And it's showing that these guys are a little bit more prepared to get off to a good start this week. So those are the dudes I would be looking to back right now. I mean, like I mentioned, Harris English, he's in my bets. Sets up well, playing well, looks just fresher out there. But certainly there's other players as well in that range, like I said, who fit that bill as well. Griot is another player. Like if you're looking at the live odds, I mean, he's been playing really well, and we're seeing not some of these top players not perform. Good opportunity for a player like that. So if you're looking at live odds, those are the names that would really pique my interest the most. But this is also a tournament where we see pretty big comebacks, and we've seen it. It can be tight. Guys can come back from 4 shots on the last day. They go out and shoot a career round. So no need to get too crazy right now, but certainly the PGA Championship hangover is in full effect right now.
Okay, Jeff, thanks for stopping by. Go Celtics. You laying the 8 points?
I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, the Celtics. That's the problem with them. Like, we're not getting. I think they're going to win tonight.
When they win, they cover though. That's why.
I know. And I haven't really thought about it, to be honest, but
that's just like the NBA playoffs in general, right? If you win, typically you're rolling. I realize backs against the wall, elimination game. They've been horrible at home, 11 losses in their last 2 postseasons. That's the most in any team in NBA history. Now you have to be good to have 11 losses at home the last 2 years in the playoffs. That means you're getting deep in the playoffs.
As much as I like the narrative of them coming back, and I do think it's got a chance of happening, I don't know if I necessarily want to give them that much credit to take a here after what we've seen. Like, I don't know if we it's a tough one. I think the way to play it is sprinkle a little bit on the futures still. I know the lines aren't as good as they were after a 3-0, but certainly they're, you could do that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. -8. I don't know. What was Garian's feeling on the spread?
He stayed away. He stayed away from the total, stayed away from the number. He said, all right, let's take a look at the futures. And as he mentioned, he got 14-1. They're at plus 450 now to win it. Because like Garian said, if you have rollover money if you're a Miami backer, or if you just look at Boston's price to win the conference at plus 210, this number makes sense, because if they win tonight, they'll be probably a short favorite for game 6, minus 125, minus 135.
Yeah.
And then game 7, they would be like, as Garian said, I think he's right, minus 300, minus 450, something in that range. So
yeah, I agree completely. I would just look at the futures at this point. If you like them, it'll cost you less to invest, and you'll have a good investment going into game 6 if you lose. And if you lose, I mean, you just lose less than betting straight up a money line or even the spread. So
okay. All righty. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks to Gary and Thorne, Jeff Ulrich. Find their extremely hard work over at dknation.draftkings.com. They've got write-ups. Garian's got a baseball article up. Jeff will have more coverage of Charles Schwab as the weekend rolls on. Thanks to Eamon and Tom Pike behind the scenes, getting us up and running. Next in Madden Simland is Denver and Buffalo, starting in moments. Thanks everyone for tuning in. The Slate returns tomorrow, same time. We've also got the Sweat at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Have a great Thursday. See you later.